ia Tuheitia. Tō reira, i ngā mate o te tau o te marama, o te wiki, tainua mai ki tēnei wā, haere koutou mō mai. Kia rewa tātou, i tēnei rā. So, just by way of a very quick intro, thank you for making the time to come here today so that we can give you a sense of where this iwi is heading, its aspirations, its plans, its work activity, its achievements, and the challenges that are before the most racist government that has ever taken power in this country. So, tēnā koutou. We want to start with a video to honour our king. Tēnā koutou, welcome. We're going to have an amazing day. Kia ora. I haven't turned it off. I Tuheitia po te tau te perowhara te tuawhitu. Ko koe te whakatinanatanga o te mana Māori motuake. Nā utunu i arahi, tō iwi Māori, kia kotahi. Kia kotahi te mahi, kia kotahi te kōrero, kia eke ki tō tātou mana Māori motuake. Moi mai, e rangi. I tō moenga roa, i tō maunga tapu o taupiri e tūmaina. Tākiri tū ko te kotaitanga. This is the lasting legacy left by Kingi Tuheitia. It was his challenge for Māori to unite across this country in the face of one of the most racist governments ever to take power, at a time when everything meaningful, Māori policy, Māori laws, Māori help, was being smashed and demolished by the national-led coalition government. The King took it upon himself to challenge our people to come together so that we could build a plan to future-proof our future, to build a new era of prosperity. And this triggered 3 hui, one at Tūranga Wāwai at home, one in Kahungunu, and the final one in Christchurch. It was an opportunity for Māori across this country to talk in a significant and a meaningful way. But the challenge for the King didn't just stop with tribes across this country. It challenged also our iwi to work together, shoulder to shoulder. TGH, te whakakitanga, te arataura, working in unison, so that we could make sure that our people prospered during difficult times. For us, that will always be his lasting legacy. Tākiri tū o te kotaitanga.
Ngā e te iwi e, kia mau ki te mana motu hake. Morena. What a great Waikato morning for all of us, eh? Could see you all through the kohu. Ngā mihi nui kia tātou. As as the King left us, that we work in collaboration with each other as whānau hapu and iwi, as entities of this group, as iwi of the motu, we bring you our collective report today as the leaders of these entities. So, haungate ko ai, we all here kia eke panuku te waka o Waikato, ki roto i ngā mahi, eh? So, again, we have the leadership from the iwi here today, and our apologies from Marama Muruleni, who just couldn't join us today. I'll be giving her report on her behalf. So just to remind us of the fabulous iwi we are, ko tahitanga is a dui, not a be. It's a verb. So ko tahitanga, the way we exercise it, kia ora, Ruth. And celebrate yourselves, please.
Whakatupuranga 2050, Kingitanga, Whaia, o te mana motuhake.
Koe anora, tēnā rā koutou te ngā marae maha o Waikato-Tainui. And the real heroes of the games, other than all the hands that touch the work, are your marae coordinators who somehow wrangle us all into teams, into everybody, and end up with too many people all on the day. Saying that they're the real heroes of the Tainui Games. But again, all of those activities, that leadership from our marae, that's the energy that we all want to build into, because the future is ours e te iwi. And the future of mana motuhake means a lot more being done out there by you for the iwi. Enabled by the centre here, enabled by different processes, but you're doing it. And you're changing lives wherever you are. It's been my privilege to serve for, we're halfway through now. A year and a half into whakakitenga, but also coming into the 30 years since we settled our Raupatu settlement. So wanting to acknowledge, I guess, on behalf of everybody that worked on the settlement, 3 heroes that left us in this last quarter and joined the king in his tira. Timuki Whakatane McLean was a trust board member at the time of the settlement. And he was young at heart, still in his old age, but he had total belief that our rangatahi would take us forward. And he definitely grew that in us, the young ones that worked around him at the time. Niwa Nuri was our, again, to all the beanos in the room, bean counters, all respect to you. You can do what Jesus any day, nei. Niwa's, that's his whānau, that was his area of expertise that he brought into the negotiation. Mihi nui ki whanau tarawa nā lātou ia. And of course Dr. Shane Sullivan, who most of you would have heard speaking just before now. For all of the lawyers in the house, lucky Shane wrote it all down. So he did a full record of our settlement history as his poha back to the iwi, although he had spent much of his life teaching us that. If I was saying that, they represent all of those that did the work. Many of you in the room had tupuna, aunties, uncles, kuros, that all did the work, whether they got on the train to go to Wellington, fundraised for it, or whatever part they played. Wrote affidavits, stayed up, went to all the fundraisers, so that we could be here today. And we thank you for that legacy proposition, because 30 years in, we are all better off. We can all say we've moved somewhere along the journey. So coming back to you, what is it that we do in this house for you? For those of you, if this is your first time, that little name in front of you, that's the marae that sits we all sitting. and they come and represent your voice in the House. And we represent your voice as it pertains to this Whakatupuranga 2050, what we want for all of our iwi, our mokopuna to aspire to, eh? So, not rocket science, that's the dream. These are the resources. Now, how do we make that happen? That's the magic. Your karate, boibeki today. So, in this last short year, what have we done as Whakatupuranga? We are in year 2 of a 5-year plan. So, yay to us for being in year 2. And we're learning every time. We are 30 years settlement young and year 1 of a 5-year plan. So, add that all together, it's not bad, e tiwi. This is our first collective chairs report. So we've changed the format to make it easier for you and make it easier for our people. Because whereas before we used to report as entities, we want to report as whakatupuranga now. Doesn't really matter which hat we've got on, as long as we're accountable. We can assure you that we either did or didn't do what we're going to do, and we plan better for the future, kapoe. So that's this effort in front of you today. Our participation, so this room, and I'm speaking for this room, not Te Arataura, told us yesterday, we had our AGM yesterday, we are the 80% club. By 80%, I mean we show up 80% of the time for you. So I challenged us, what does it take for us to show up 100% of the time for iwi? What's our mark of pride? Do we show up at all our marae meetings when you ask for us to bring back the news from Te Whakakitenga? How are we tying that taura to this house and being accountable for you in the whare? So those again, strengthening exercise for Te Whakakitenga, so that we are better kawe kōrero, both from our marae whānau into here, and from here back out to our marae. And probably for my part, and those of us who are old enough to have been voted in for the settlement, if you're my age, put your hand up, about mid-50s, you voted, eh? Yeah, it's important. Did you vote for the settlement 30 years ago? Put your hand up. So I need all the young people in the room to look at those hands, because we need you voting, e karima. It has to be that important. It was important 30 years ago. We need you voting in a couple of months' time too, but I'll go on about that in a minute. But 30 years on, we need to start leaning into that future. We have a beautiful opportunity with the Queenie leading her generation, her reanga, and that optimism. Let's lean into that, whānau. I want to be one of the olds that get to retire because I've got so much confidence in my future. Ne? I want to be the nanny that doesn't have to stand up because, man, look at my pai. Yeah? And I just want to have backs, look after the leadership of the future and stop picking on them and tearing ourselves apart. That's who I want us to be as olds, yeah? And I want to live long enough to see it all, not die in the roles. So if those are promises to ourselves, how do we be those people? So pretty soon you'll start hearing wānanga that want to talk about our next 30 years. Please come, see yourself there, see your mokopuna there. I'm not going to say when and where because I'll probably get all the dates wrong. But thank you for your time today. We're going to quickly move on through the reports now. And Donna and Tuku, ko korua tēnei. Thank you.
As I look across the room, there are lots of people who have first time here in this house. So for your benefit, yesterday we acknowledged our senior leadership team. Donna Flavel is the CEO. Can I have her team, please? Can you stand? The senior leadership team. Those are the people, including Donna, that make things happen in the iwi. Hinarangi can introduce her commercial senior management team, but for the purposes of this part of the presentation, I want you to make sure that you see these people, because these are your eyes and hands that do the work. So, as we said in the introduction, we are trying to bring to life kotahitanga across the group. Whakakitenga, the Parliament, Tainui Group Holdings, Te Arataura, all working in unison, all in a much more collegial and cohesive way. So it is true that for the first time we have streamlined our presentation. But this year has been filled with protecting our settlements. This government has changed every piece of legislation that relates to Māori. And especially when we get to Resource Management Act and the changes to that and to water, we have made more than 30 submissions to parliamentary select committees. Donna and I have met so many times with with government ministers to protect our settlement. So this government is always good at trying to find smart ways of trying to get around our settlements. And we're pretty sharp at protecting them. We're in the High Court at the moment over water. And we have drawn Leiko even another claim against the government. So we are busy fighting this government because we have to. That's the only way to protect what we have. The beauty about our settlements is that they are bespoke, which means they are unique. We're the only iwi that have what we have. Co-governance, co-management over the river, all of those things, we're the only iwi that have it. So we've got to fight hard. The other responsibility that we have is that we are also members of the Iwi Chairs Forum, which involves 76 iwi around the country. And because Erinai League, the Tuheitia, which is the Environmental and Regulations Committee, we have to fight for every other iwi in this country as well. So we're not only fighting to protect ours, but we're fighting to protect others, and there are other iwi that haven't settled. So you can imagine how tough it is, but we're up for it. We have said to the Prime Minister and to his ministers, you touch our settlement, we're in the court the next stand.
Tēnā tātou whānau, tēnā tātou nā marae maha. Ka mihi nui kia katoa i tā today. E tautoko ana ngā mihi ki o tātou te araki nui, koini ngā waihono i te pō, pai mārire, o tira tēnā tātou. Kia ora whānau. Morena. I've got all the detail to go through, so it's a little, bear with me because it's quite a lot of information. But please note, all of the information is in here, and I'm just going to try and give you a bit of a snapshot of some of the highlights that have taken place over the year. Give you a bit of a snapshot of our financial position, and further details will be also outlined by Hinerangi when she gets to her part of the report. And then I just want to talk to you about some of the work that we're going to do in the future. So, ka pai. So bear with me as I kind of work through all the detail. So the first slide is really just giving you a bit of an overview of our financial results for our team. And basically, outside of the distributions we receive as part of our annual distribution from Tainui Group Holdings, we've also been able to generate our own income to contribute to supplementing our work program. I guess part of that is income made out of other Crown funding, and I'll give you a really good example. Tainui Live, that's all externally funded, and so that actually contributes to part of this pūtea. Our mokopuna ora contract, so the work that our team does with oranga tamariki to try and keep our babies out of care, that's all part of this income that's come in. Some of the other gains in terms of our asset evaluation, that's come through from our Mercer funds. So those are our funds that are invested and managed by our Chief Investment Officer from Tainui Group Holdings. And I guess overall, our net profit has been 44.2 million for this year. Ka pai. So our total assets, 718.3 million, that fits into our overall consolidated accounts. Ka pai. Our next slide, this is just giving you a bit of a breakdown and a snapshot of our social investments. So these are all of our funding going out, or funding that has been used for our initiatives that we run. So if you look at our grants, that we distributed this year, this last financial year, was 25.5 million. So those cover things like our kaumātua grants, our taiao grants, our education grants, all of that funding is direct out. It also includes our marae grants, and as you would see, it's a little bit down from last year, but we had a special distribution that went out last year because we performed so well and we had a relativity payment. In terms of our tohu, we spent about 4.8 mil on some of our initiatives that go out. These are all the programs that our team runs. This is all the work that we do in terms of our activities across our plan, and you'll see all that detail, like I said, in our annual report. And then we have our strategic projects. The strategic projects are pretty new. We've learned over the last 5 years on being a little bit more agile, but some of those strategic projects, again, have been outlined in our plans, and that's some of the things that we're doing, like responding to some of the Crown policy, because those are things that sometimes we haven't planned for. So we need a bit of pūtea to be able to respond to those types of activities. So our total investment spend is around 32.7 mil, which is quite a lot of pūtea whānau that goes out directly to our whānau, and it's probably about more than 60% of that pūtea is distributed directly out. So, and in terms of some of the tohu and the activities, this is just a snapshot. I'm not going to go through all of the detail because it's in there, but I just wanted to talk about the Ōrākau Remembrance Bill. So in February, we had a law that was passed to return the whenua back to the iwi to manage, and it is to recognise the events that happened there in terms of the land wars and the raupatu. And 9.7 hectares was returned between Maniapoto, Raukawa and Waikato to manage on behalf. So our next task, now that the whenua has been returned, what are we going to do with that and how are we going to manage that and reflect the time? So I think that was a good milestone for us. It takes a lot of work to churn that through, and sometimes it makes you, like this government, on the one hand they're fighting us and then they give back a taonga like our Ōrākau whenua. So I think it's a good highlight there. In terms of our next slide, just around the tribal identity, I say to us, we're actually increasing our tribal member database. We're breeders whānau. So we've got, our number of members have actually increased by 5%. So we're now 94,000 members, iwi strong number. So I can imagine that will grow over time. We've got really good data now, so this is a real number. We've also, make sure that we go through a process to, when some of our whānau pass on, we've got pretty good data and relationships to identify when that happens. And then for our babies who are also born, we've got a really good process for that. So it is a good number to have. Everyone, and it just, in terms of the increase, I feel like people are really proud to be part of Waikato. In terms of our tribal success, this is really a lot of our work that our team is doing around our mahi in the education space, but also in our employment and career pathway space. So not all of our whānau want to go to university, and we recognise that. So, how do we create jobs? How do we find a different way of doing things to be able to enable our whānau into strong career pathways? And then we're also probably the one iwi who has the most amount of environmental commissioners that have been trained, so we can actually sit on hearing panels making decisions for what happens in our taiao space, which is a really good place to be in my mind. So we've got the most number of people who are registered, most number of people who can sit on our hearings, and unfortunately we've lost Shane, who was one of our few that could sit as a chair. So we've got one other. So that's probably our next mission, is to try and find other members who can be the chair of those hearings. In terms of our social and economic wellbeing, there's lots in here, but I really just want to talk a lot to the work that our team are doing around social procurement. A lot of and you'll see it in the video that's yet to come, but we have a lot of our tribal members who have registered now. There's a huge increase because they can see the opportunities. For all the mahi that we do, whether it's a big build or a big design, how do we actually make sure that our tribal members can participate in the system? so that they can be part of it. So that dollar that we're investing actually goes back into our own communities, that goes back into our own people, and goes back into our own tribal member businesses. So, and then we've got some really cool partners that work alongside us, and you've seen Waikato-Tainui who are already out there. But they work alongside us. They've offered discounts for our marae members, but also our Pākehī can actually get discounts. You know, the ones who are doing all the builds, the carpentry, they also get the discount. So, you know, there's this huge tribal economy that we're trying to create, and that's all part and parcel of the work that our team does as well. So again, just to give you a bit of an overview, in terms of the group, we're reporting a deficit whānau of 21.4 million. We'll explain and break that down for you all a little bit over time, but overall, we're in a pretty good place, you know, given the volatility of what's happening around us. That's really revaluation or whenua as opposed to loss of cash, but we'll talk about that later on in the presentation. I wanted to talk a little bit because, you know, we've heard about all the grants and the distributions, but we also want to move to a different place around what does our investment look like, where it's much more, where we can have a much more greater impact. So at the moment, we're trying to develop a new, we are developing a new social investment pathway, and I just want to acknowledge our team, so Amy and Glenda, who are up there, along with JB from Tainui Group Holdings, who have been really working through the details, and that's ably led by our distributions committee, so Maxine Graham, she's our chair of our distributions, and Max has been leading that out as our leadership team for our board in this space. So this is an exciting part of our mahi whānau. This is a bit of a shift from I feel like it's a transactional with our grants, like we're quite transactional, but this is a deliberate investment so that we can actually move the dial a little bit quicker by investing in our whānau. So there's 5 stages that we've mapped out here. You know, we want to invest in investing in our tribal economy, so that work that I just talked about around the social investment, that's the first key to make sure our dollar goes a little bit further. In terms of ensuring our long-term sustainability, so I think for us, this isn't just about one-off projects. We know some of the projects are going to take a little bit of time, so but we want to make sure that those projects are going to have enduring outcomes. In terms of our intergenerational change and trajectory, talked about our dollar gaps being, you know, we want $1 to go to get $5 outcomes, $10 outcomes, $15 outcomes, as much as possible. So we want to make sure that our investments that we're going to be making in the space is going to make real change and achieve those aspirations that Tipa talked about in Whakatupuranga 2050. Part of that is we've been able to recycle our capital. So important part is, yes, we want to invest, but we also want that money to be coming back so that we can then do other projects with other members of our whānau. So it is almost like just giving a leg up as opposed to a handout, if you like, and so that we can give our whānau a bit of a boost. Then that gets repaid, and then we recycle it for the next project. So that's the intent, again, trying to make our dollar go a little bit further so that we're just not eating away at our capital. And then, of course, another big part of that is actually working in partnership with others. Partners make the world go round, which we notice on a regular basis, and having really good partners who are aligned to our way of thinking and doing makes sense to us, you know, to move the dial and create better outcomes. So I think that's my slide, whānau. Bit of an overview, hard and fast, sorry. But we've got a little bit of a video, and that will give you a little bit more detail. Kia ora.
Whakatupuranga 2050, Tribal Identity and Integrity. Ko Tainui te waka, ko taupiri te maunga, ko Waikato te awa, ko pōtatau te whirowhiro te tangata. Waikato tani wharau, he piko he taniwha, he piko he taniwha. We've made more than 30 submissions to parliamentary select committees over the year. It has been unprecedented. Our meetings with government ministers is never ending. Our fight against this government is ongoing. Each time they get rid of policy, we have to fight to protect that which is ours. And at the heart of what we do is protecting our two settlements. And even though bespoke in its nature and unique as they are, the expectation for other iwi across this country is an added responsibility foisted upon our shoulders to fight with other iwi so that they can enjoy the sense of security and confidence that their settlements too will be protected for all time. Notwithstanding the fact that there are still iwi who haven't settled their claims. The work with this government is never ending. Every aspect of who we are, our reo, our tikanga, that which is important to us, the health of our people, have been attacked. It is an ongoing assault by this government. And in the end, we have to find creative and innovative ways of making sure that our people enjoy prosperity. There was a time when we had significant government funding. That's dried up. That's because this government has changed its tack. No longer are they generous and benevolent to our people because they are destroying everything that is meaningful and important to Māori across this country. And so we are having to fight in ways that we've never fought before. I'm reminded by what Sir Robert often said. We should not bemoan our fate and allow successive governments to roll over the top of us. We have to fight. We have to be committed to keeping on the pathway of prosperity. And that's what we're going to do. We have to be committed. We have to be agile so that we can survive. And survive we will.
I rawa I katoa te haere o te pae kāka I tēnei tau. He nui ngā hua o roto ka tangohia e mātou, ka here atu ki te kāinga, kia whāngaihia I ngētahi o ngā whakaakoranga nui o tēnei rangapū tuarima o te pae kāka.
O rero hia, tō māhua pāpā, koro te rua tūpa.
Ako mātou tēnā e whaiwhai ana I ngā hua I uta. I ngā hua ki tai, kei ngā marae e rima I tai atu I tēnei rangapū. He whatakai, he whatakōrero, kei ia marae, hai aha. Ana, hei tautoko e whakarau ora, ngā pai puta noa I ngā nia o te Waikato-Tainui.
He maha o ku whakaro mo ngā kaiako I mātou rātou reka. He maha o ngā kāwhano ko whakatōmia I roto I taku whatumanoa, I roto I taku iningaro. Ka hari tenia e whakatikitiki te reo no iho, me e whakatoa I ngā hihia kia kuna, whakapapa I ngā hikiri a te whenua, I tēnei mea ke manaki te tangata, manaki te manawhiri.
He wāhi haumaru ki te ako I nei kōrero, ki te pakapakari o tātou tikanga. Ko te tumanako, ka aere tonu tēnei kaupapa o Tainui, I tino whakahirahira tēnei kaupapa ki te whakaako. O reira, nau mai.
E whio kēnei ngā taonga tupuiho korero mā mātou hei kaua I tēnei wānei. Ko te pai kāka te take. Ka pono ai no mātou te whiwhi, te whai wāhi atu ki ngē rā mongo, I a rāhui kia ngārihi mā.
Kaore he tangata I tu atu I a rāhui. Me te tuitui ngā kōrero katoa o tēnā iwi o Tainui.
"30 years ago, Hopuhopu was one of 2 military bases that was returned to the iwi. It was to honour our historic Kaupatu claim. This place is a tangible vestige of the military presence that was once here at Hopuhopu. The transformation of this place is upon us. We've built the sports pavilion to look after the thousands of kids who come here to play rugby and rugby league. The maintenance shed our men and our staff can do their job in a much more sophisticated and efficient way. At the heart of what we're doing is to rebuild Hopuhopu as the headquarters of this iwi. This is our place. And just recently, there is cause for celebration. Hopuhopu will be the venue for Matatini, the greatest show on earth. It is a place where we can celebrate our culture, enjoy each other's company, a place where we can imagine what our future might look like, away from the control of the council, away from the control of the government. Hopuhopu is the springboard for our new future.
The Hopuhopu housing development is our first major construction in about 25 years at Hopuhopu. In the first 2 stages, we will be building 100 homes, which gives our whānau the opportunity to live in safe, secure and dry homes at an affordable rent. It also allows us to replace the housing stock that exists at Hopuhopu, which is well past its use-by date. At Waikato-Tainui, our social procurement strategy is a really important kaupapa. How do we use the spend that we have with our Māori businesses? 2 recent projects completed at Hopuhopu, the maintenance building and the sports pavilion, we were able to ensure that more than 50% of the cost of those projects went to Puna Pākehī. So we would hope to be able to build on the success of what we've already done through those 2 projects with this new housing development. That gives our Puna Pākehī the opportunity to continue to grow and to prosper in their own right.
We're a Māori-owned and operated commercial construction business. We're working alongside or competing alongside what they call Tier 1 contractors. And some say it's quite daunting, but we're excited by the challenge. We also need to acknowledge Waikato-Tainui for giving us the opportunity to lead these projects and giving confidence in us to be able to deliver. I suppose this is whenua raupatu, so once upon a time our people called this home. They had homes here. That was taken away from them. In terms of working here at Hopuhopu, there's probably a different type of connection for me personally and my business to this work here, where it's more than there's an emotional connection. I suppose in some small way, we're playing a part in making this whenua homes again for people of Tainui. Been awesome being part of Māori-led commercial construction projects from both a client point of view as well as a contractor. I think I could speak for a lot of businesses out here. We're all really excited to be a part of the change and development that's happening out here.
The Hopuhopu Restoration Plan is a deliberate effort by Waikato-Tainui to restore approximately 100 hectares of whenua, with the hope that it will have wider positive implications for the restoration of Waikato-awa and her catchment, and simultaneously building the capability of our whānau, increasing the connection between our marae, our iwi, our hapu, to Waikato-awa.
What excites me about this space is a beautiful space to be in. You get to plant plants, you get to harvest, you get better at growing things. And it's not just about the plants, it's all about the animals as well as vegetables and all that sort of stuff. I love getting my hands dirty on it. My approach to this maybe is leading by example in the first instance. I'm all gumbooted up, I'm all overawed up, and we're in the bush doing it together. And the boys turn around and they're happy with what they've done. When they see they completed the job, you got happy people, job done, what more do you want? Nice people, I like the people from here at the nursery, you meet them. And then you got the office people, and they're beautiful people. It's the time I want to pass on. And it's nice when you're finished and you see the fruits of your labour. Something that was about this high when you planted it, now it's about 10 foot high above your head. I couldn't think of a better space to work in, to be honest.
We have a significant master plan for the continued development of Hopuhopu. The projects we've recently completed, the college and this housing development are part of that master plan. We look forward to continuing to work on that master plan and deliver to the iwi the things that they will need so that you can live, work and play at Hopuhopu for your iwi.
Tēnā tātou i te iwi, ka nui te mihi kia koutou katoa. It's a beautiful day and it's wonderful to have you all here today. My name is Hinerangi Raumati Tuua and I'm the chair of Tainui Group Holdings, but also sit on the board of Te Aratauira with Tuku, and I chair Tūranga Wawa Marae as well, just to kind of just to show that we all wear many hats. We all do lots of mahi. So I'm here today with Richard Jeffries. Richard is our acting CEO, and he's going to cover. He's going to help make the presentation today as well. And we have two other executive members here who are going to stand up right now. This is Pia Tohe, our GM Engagement, and Tracy Hook-Ihaka, our CFO. All right, we're going to keep the momentum going, whānau, so that you can get to questions. So we set out for FY25 with a few simple goals. One was to secure a partner for the continuing development of Ruakura. The other one was to continue to meet the distribution targets that are set for us by the iwi. The third one was to strengthen the TGH team, and the fourth one was to reduce debt. And we made progress on all of those things, some of it post-ballot stage, but most of it during the year, and we're really proud of what we were able to achieve, albeit we have mixed financial results. So we're going to talk about what our operating environment was like during the year. And I'm sure most of you have seen and have noticed that the New Zealand economy remained under pressure in FY25, lagging behind other similar countries. We experienced rising mortgage rates and cost of living, which has been really topical in the last few weeks, particularly around the cost of butter. But those things have placed huge strain on our household budgets, resulting in reduced spending and ultimately putting Aotearoa into a technical recession. In contrast, the international share market continued to perform strongly for much of the year. However, US markets have come down, have come under quite a bit of pressure lately, particularly since Donald Trump was sworn in as president in November, over concerns with the economic policies that have been coming out of the White House for the last 6 months or so. And most of that we see in the kōrero around tariffs. You know, as New Zealand, we have been, a 10% tariff has been added to the tariffs that have existed. And we feel, I think, as a country that's, something we probably can sustain, and that most of our politicians are maintaining a strategy of keeping a low profile when it comes to the US and ensuring that actually 10% is as high as it goes. But all of those things that are happening internationally and nationally have had some effect on the financial performance of Tainui Group Holdings at the wider group in the last year. We keep talking about whether or not we're at the bottom of the cycle, whānau, and we're really not sure. I think we have less confidence around that than more confidence at the moment. So on this slide here, you'll see what the actual performance has been across the group. Tainui Group Holdings has two roles to play, and one is Chief Investment Officer. So we look after all of the funds from all of the settlements, plus we are the fund manager for real estate, natural resources and infrastructure. I forgot one. 3. So you see there, we have the Waikato-Tainui Land Trust. That's what WRLT means. That's our first settlement that we achieved around whenua. That is where most of the assets sit. There's about $2 billion in gross assets there. We have the River Initiatives Fund and the Co-Management Fund and the Sir Robert Mahuta Fund. So those all came out of the river settlement. And you see that the Land Trust Fund is significantly larger than those other three. In terms of returns for the year, equity growth for the Land Trust was a -4%. And we'll show you how that came about and what makes it up as well as we go through the presentation. Whereas the River Initiatives Fund, Co-Management Fund and Sir Robert Mahuta Fund all achieved about 6% before distribution in FY25. So all of their assets are invested via Mercer. Mercer is a fund manager and they have a diversified portfolio and they are all liquid funds. So that's why the results are quite different. The Land Trust Fund is invested in our whenua, plus farms and forests and fishing assets and those sorts of things as well. This slide here covers off TGH's performance on its own. So in the prior slide, TGH is captured within the group, but this is TGH on its own. And so we include this for full transparency over where TGH did itself during the year. So our total assets during the year were $1.74 billion. That was down slightly from last year of $1.77 billion. Our total bank debt, we ended the year at $420 million. We had hoped to have reduced debt by the time we got to the balance date, but our reduction in debt didn't happen until May when we settled the transaction with Brookfield. And so debt now sits at about $300 million. Our operating profit was $17 million, and that is a reduction on budget. We had a couple of tough sectors during the year. One was residential housing, and the other one was our hotels. But Richard will talk further about what was happening within our different portfolio assets. Our net profit fell into the negative with a loss of $35.8 million compared to a profit last year of $51.6 million, and comprehensive income was a loss of $40 million. So those two figures there are really demonstrating the movement and market value of assets that we experience at the end of the year. So every year we get to the end of the financial year and we must value our assets in accordance with some rules, but essentially to market value. And we've had sustained economic pressure on the portfolio around interest rates and inflation mostly, which pushes down valuations. So that's how we've ended up in that position this year. And Richard will cover off a little bit more of that detail. And then finally, around distributions, the distribution out of the TGH portfolio was 28.6. That's 2.5% of the net assets. Total distribution across the group was around $35 million. And so those distribution numbers are significantly up compared to where we were about 4 or 5 years ago. So we were distributing about $14 million as we transitioned into puna. And so today we're at $28.6 million and we're achieving our targets. We believe that there is significantly still more work for us to do on making sure our distribution is sustainable. At the moment, we feel like, we have a plan every year to achieve it, and then we get pushed around by the economy. We need to get above that. And in order really for us to do that, we probably need to make significant change in the portfolio. But we just need everyone to come on the journey with us in order to be able to do that. Richard's going to talk now about our returns over time, but also what the things that have happened, the highlights and the lowlights from our asset classes. But kia ora tātou.
Tēnā koe hinerangi, tēnā tātou. Kia ora tātou iwi no ngā tōpito te rohe, nē rā te mi kia koutou. I just want to add final point to our net profit result. As Hinerangi's explained, it does include any changes in the asset values. But it is at just a point in time. All right, and it's useful to do this, to report our annual results, to check in with how we're doing. And what we're trying to show on this slide here is how we've done over the last 22 years in TGH's existence. Right, I'm pleased to say we actually have one of our audit team from PwC in the room, who's also a tribal member, so Connor's over there. I don't know if he's here to, as an interested tribal member, or check what I say, but pleased to have him here all the same. Well, tēnā koe, Connor. Yeah, good to see you. So, yeah, over the last 22 years, you can see our annual net profit result has gone up and down. We've largely experienced growth over the last 22 years. And there have been 3 events over the last 22 years. We've run into some challenges, and they've coincided with some macroeconomic events affecting the whole world. Okay, so we started in 2009, 2010 with the GFC, the global financial crisis. Fast forward to 2020, where everyone went into lockdown. That was COVID, and that affected our financial results. And more recently, we've had this onslaught of geopolitical events. Starting a couple of years ago with the war between Ukraine and Russia, and what we're going through at the moment with Trump 2.0. But what we've done through all of these events is we'll come out of those periods growing. Okay, and so the next slide looks at the last 10 years. And we can look at TGH also in 10-year cycles. So typically we have a little bit of growth, a period of consolidation for about 5 years, and then we invest in our whenua, our strategically placed whenua like Ruakura. And this is what we've done in the last 5 years, and we go through this massive wave of growth. So you can look at those last 2 charts as a bit of a predictor of what the next 10 to 22 years is going to look like for us. One thing you can almost be certain of is that we're going to run into some global economic challenges which we need to face into, and which we need to better prepare our assets for to go through. A big milestone which we celebrated in April, but all the work was sort of done 12 months prior to that, was the signing with Brookfield. So they are our partner for stage 1 of Ruakura. That's the 80 hectares of stage 1. Remembering that Ruakura itself is about 600 hectares, so that's just a portion of the entire estate. But the partnership allows us to pay down debt. So as Hinerangi's explained, by May we had paid down over a quarter of our debt, down to just under 300 million, and we'd like to see that track down further. Okay, so, and we believe we can do that with the Brookfield partnership. But importantly, what this allows us to do is benefit in the interest savings from paying down debt, which means we have more cash available for distribution. One of the important features of the arrangement with Brookfield is in the stack of joint venture agreements, we have been able to exert control through the prepaid ground lease, because we're not selling whenua, but also the joint venture agreements themselves in terms of how decisions get made in the joint venture. So those are 2 really important features to ensure that we control the development over the next 20 to 30 years. I'm going to jump into each of the parts of TGH's assets. So starting with real estate, which is still the biggest part of our portfolio. Financially, we experienced a couple of headwinds, which Hinerangi alluded to. One was residential. So we have 2 active residential developments at Rotakoti and at Tūmata Rise, just to the north of Ruakura. Tough time for resi, and we sold about a third of what we planned to at Tūmata Rise. And at the moment, we rely quite a bit actually on residential cash flows, and one of the challenges for us is to transition to the assets to be less reliant on residential developments. The other big challenge, of course, was our hotels across the board, generally speaking, but Te Nui Pullman up at Auckland Airport in its first year didn't hit the mark in terms of the planned occupancy, the planned rate. We had a bit of a tough year last year. Coming into this year, pleased to say that, while things are still very challenging, we're seeing better performance coming out of Te Arekinui. But times are still pretty tough. So, we reckon across both resi and hotels, we've still got a bit of a grind to go through with those assets. We did celebrate a couple of milestones, though. Amoheake, ACC, the building in the Hamilton CBD, achieved what's called a NABERS 6-star rating. It's the top rating you can achieve for energy efficiency. So that building saves 80% of its energy usage, and that's been a real concerted effort for our team to show that we can demonstrate that sort of commitment. And secondly, we opened the refrigerators development out at Rurukura, which is a reasonably portable development site relative to the likes of Kmart, but an important milestone for us to celebrate, and one that we took into the joint venture with Brookfield. I should mention too, I just missed a point there just on our retail assets. So the tale of two stories really. The base bucked the trend nationally. Super regional centre did pretty well last year. Centre place, on the other hand, for those of you who roll around through the Hamilton CBD, it is pretty tough there. Our experience was lower foot traffic, about 16% lower, and Centre Place continues to struggle. And our challenge is to reimagine what Centre Place needs to look like for us to better perform, and we'll work on that. And our infrastructure portfolio. So these are two assets in this portfolio. First is the inland port. This year, we experienced growth in container volume, and we're able to expand the site and sublease to a empty container depot container co. So they are sort of the bottom left of that of the inland port, where you can see most of the containers, the big container sacks. So we opened them in December 2024, should I say. And Rurukura Energy, which is our lines distribution company at Rurukura. It's our substation which connects power essentially to our tenants out at Rurukura. We commenced commissioning of Rurukura Energy, and we expect to open that in November, December this year. But we started to generate some pretty good income out of that asset already. So we're really pleased with that. Natural resources, which is our farms, forestry and fishing, a bit of a mixed bag. Dairy farms went really well this year. So generally speaking, we produce about 500,000 milk solids every year, but we're in a record payout year. We've got a new head of farms and forestry, Brett Tuheitia, who joined our team last year. And he's really changed the game for us in terms of how we think about that part of our portfolio. So we've got more production coming off of farm, landed just in time for a record payout year. We expect payout to stay up quite high through this coming financial year as well. In our forestry, however, our active forest, which we're harvesting out at Kawerau on Kawhia, we had to pause harvesting for a time, largely due to log prices not allowing us to produce a profit. We recommenced harvesting after a couple of months stand down, but we didn't perform as well as what we would have liked. Fishing, which has been a pretty good story generally speaking, our partnership with Sealord, we have a joint venture, if you like, or a profit share arrangement, which went really well last year. But it's also a portfolio which allows us to lease our quota to tribal members. So Ali and Leon, who are just on that vessel there, that's one of their 3 vessels. They are tribal members based out at Kawhia. They fish our quota for us into Seafood Bazaar in Mahana Road, if anyone knows where that is. Awesome story. Private equity. So this is a part of the portfolio where we invest in investment companies who then invest in companies, and some of those companies are up on screen there. At balance date, we had $24 million left invested in those entities, and they're at the stage of runoff, so meaning we will slowly divest that $24 million down over the next couple of years as we've realised the value that we sought to create when we went into those funds. A big focus for us over the last year has been connecting with you guys, and we've tried to do that in a number of different ways. getting out to Pokai, Kingi events, of course. We've got some of our team here with our own stall, but also promoting our employment at our hotels. We've got our whānau from Kmart here as well. These are really important touch points for us. But also asset tours, which are great ways to show you guys around the things that we've done, but also listen to some of your feedback about about our activities. So these are really good opportunities for us. On the right-hand side, we have two of our cadets, Jackson and Riley, who have come through our farming team. And they've gone strength to strength. And that Brett Tuheitia, who I mentioned earlier, has restructured the whole farming team to move away from contract milking into employing our own people. So we now employ about 18 kaimahi in the farming portfolio, and 15 of those are Māori, 10 of those are tribal members. So it's a really good start, but I'm looking forward to seeing where Brett's going to take us. We took the opportunity about 10 months ago to ensure that what TGH was doing was meeting the expectations of Whakatupuranga 2050. Okay, so this was us doing a bit of a deep dive into the various objectives for how we want our people to be, how we want to sustain our people, that vision for the year 2050. So we've taken that work into refreshing our strategy, which is a glimpse of that is on our next slide. So historically, what TGH has done in terms of strategy is look more at the things that we're going to build to produce income to pay dividend. Right? This strategy is a bit more inward looking, ensuring that one, we can see TGH playing a part to advance tribal success for our people under mana motuhake. Two, that we are meeting our taiao commitments, our many taiao commitments under kaitiakitanga. Three, that we have a strong tikanga-led team under whakatupu tangata. And whakatupu rawa, that's our challenge to grow the TGH portfolio sustainably, but importantly, increase the amount of cash that that our assets generate. Okay. And the last slide, really, before I hand you back to Hinerangi, to make some closing comments, is just really some of our highlights from the year. From the Pullman to the opening out at, celebrating the partnership with Brookfield out at Tūranga Waiwai, which was a pretty awesome day. And the snapshot in the middle is of our tribal fishers, Arlene and Leon, and their team. So they've been able to create cadetships and employment on their vessels and ensure succession for a pretty hard business, really, pretty hard industry. So, really pleased with some of those other features of the year, notwithstanding some of the financial challenges that we've experienced. I'll hand you back to Hinerangi, but tēnā koutou katoa.
Just in closing, whānau, I just want to acknowledge Richard and his team, our executive team, for the mahi that they've done during the year. It is a bit of a mixed result, particularly on the financial side, but we felt that we've made good progress in some of our other key kaupapa that we wanted to achieve during the year. And it's really about trying to set ourselves up so that we are working to achieve what's in front of Whakatupuranga 2050 within the boundaries and the guidelines given to us out of Puna Whakatupu Tangata, our investment framework and the whenua policy. An acknowledgement to Tuku and to Donna for the mahi as well done in terms of helping us get some of these things done. It has been really, really good working with you this year, and we really appreciate the support. But we're going to show you a video now, whānau, about the signing of the Brookfield partnership. So I hope you enjoy it.
Whakatupuranga 2050, tribal, social and economic well-being. Ia niwha te ngākau ki te whakau, I te atawhai, I te iwi.
Welcome to Tūranga Waiwai. Welcome to the home of Te Ariki Nui, Ngā Waihono I Te Pō. Welcome to the people of Waikato. We celebrate with you today in this historic agreement.
This partnership's really an important keystone to allowing us to continue to sustainably deliver the returns to Waikato-Tainui.
Today we're signing a partnership that has got a 120-year life. Imagine the next generations building that wealth and then ensuring that all of the Waikato-Iwi share in that wealth for over 100 years to come.
This is probably the biggest transaction that we've ever done in the 30 years since then. You're talking about a $1 trillion company here. That brings a scale never seen in this country.
What we want to see as well is our people in there, seeing our people participating in the economy that we are trying to create.
To help enable the mano to hake for api.
The waka, the canoe, has been fashioned. Today is the launching of the waka. Tomorrow, we need to pick up the paddle and sail to a brighter future.
Brookfields, we decided we're the right partner because they bring with them global reach, global activity and opportunity for Waikato and for other iwi if we can make that happen. They bring with them significant capital and expertise.
Today concludes a year-long process. Brookfield certainly is a big name, one of the biggest in the world, but ultimately it comes down to the people that we're working with across the table, and we're really pleased with who we're dealing with.
In a growing nation like New Zealand, this amazing piece of land, which has obviously got huge historical connections back to the settlement 30 years ago, and then use our capital and global expertise with the local knowledge and local culture and local values, is just a globally substantial opportunity where we expect to spend around $1 billion.
So this provides a gateway of opportunity to work with a global giant like Brookfield, to use their experience and their capacity to continue to build out Tuheitia, the super hub. That comes with a whole number of opportunities, including the opportunity to train our people, the opportunity for jobs.
So we should see new buildings going up, new tenants coming in. And what we believe that will bring with it is those opportunities for procurement, for Māori business to participate. What we also think is that will bring opportunities for jobs.
The world's going to need more and more data, more distribution centres, more trade. The Ruakura Super Hub fits into all of those sort of global trends, incredibly strategically located, but it needs capital to make sure we can capitalise on it for the benefit of the local community and particularly for the benefit of young people, particularly the people coming through in the Waikato.
The way the partnership has been formed, it still allows us control, it still allows us to do what we've done at Ruakura so far, which is bring our tribal Pākehī along the journey with us. When we were talking about our desire to bring our people on the journey for Ruakura, that Brookfield were really sympathetic to that.
The significance of the hoa to Waikato people. If the paddles don't align on both sides, the waka goes in circles. When we focus on the bright horizon of success for our future generations, then the paddles will naturally work themselves.
Success looks like a fully developed 70 hectares at Ruakura, lots of jobs being created, lots of economic activity going on that benefits all of us at large.
The clear message is that we're open for business, to do business with others who think like us, who behave like us, who actually appreciate the kind of values that we stand for.
This sets the next version of TGH up for success and to deliver what it needs to for our people.
Nei anō te mihi kia kōrua, Rich Hinerangi. Tēnei te pūrongo ātau mo te kariti. So just I'm going to present to you briefly the college report. So if you listen to Rahui's analogy, both sides of the waka need to paddle for it to go forward. Both sides are paddling, but we got no one looking over the hill. The college was your entity to look over the hill and out into the world. Ne? So in 30 years, te rapia ko tēnei te toinga o ngā mahi ko waihotia mai. This might be the last thing that we haven't seen through yet, e te iwi. But hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I don't think the olds be too unhappy with us. Hey, and we've got a lot done in other places. So again, carrying on ki te kore he whakakite ngā kangaro te iwi. So it's that vision and foresight, whānau, to see us in places we haven't been before. So if we go back to 30 years ago, nobody thought we'd be here, right? So where can we be in the next 30? Where will we be in relation to our taiao? And some of the questions you might want to be asking yourself that the college and other entities will want to be asking you, is your marae climate ready? Is your whānau climate ready? Eh? These are just some of the future-based things you might want to ask yourself. How are we enabling, we got our marae pūtea, how are we enabling our whānau into business opportunities here at the marae or in our communities where we are the community? Are we looking after our own hauora at home so that we can be better as a whānau? These are all whānau-based questions that help us arrive at whakatupuranga, a thriving generation. So again, the college was our place where our best and brightest were going to bring that thinking together and design the tribe of the future. Ooh, Hei oranga mō te iwi, mō ngā Hawaii kei te tū mai. So 2 key projects that the college has been involved in. One of them, there's a short video about it, and I'll go less into the detail of that because I might fall into my dark humour. It's quite a funny one, but you'll hear the humour in it. But the college has also been supporting a number of taiao and water projects. Again, why? Because we are, as you've heard, we are the Water Protection Squad for Aotearoa New Zealand. Mai kore ko Waikato ko Ngaitahu, the waters of New Zealand would not be protected. I can say that because we're going to go full on, whatever that tide looks like. So consider yourselves water protectors. For Hauora, the project itself is in and around, again, how COVID got to the country, how we're protecting ourselves should there be another type of kaupapa like that. But long story short, in this horrible environment, all research, and I think if you're in here you'll know this, but all research with Māori dollars attached has been attacked and reduced and now is probably 1% of what it formerly was. So your college chair is currently going into the world because, as you've seen from Brookfields, the world wants to know us. Funny that, eh? And people with money want to know us. And people overseas from foreign universities want to know us. It's only some people here got little people's problems. Yes, so let's not play down to that. It's a season, eh, whānau? We're bigger than that. Also, through the relationship with the engineering school in Auckland, we've been able to develop maintenance and infrastructure relationships. The hope being that these people come out and work on our marae issues, because we're in the eroding, poor access, ahara nei areas of this rohe, and we need that support. So that's going to be a key knowledge base, and hopefully we grow more helpful people through that process. And again, websites, access to the college, that's all overdue. So where we need to get to, there's a long-term strategy, there's still a pūtea there, and there's still a goal there. And what we need you to think about is someone in your family is clever enough to help us run this college. You know them, I don't. Yeah? If they still live in this country, because all of our expertise is starting to be bought by elsewhere in the world, yeah? Is we're going to be recruiting people to be on this college trust to help us run the college. But what the college really needs is it needs us to invest 5 years' worth of goodwill that it can happen. Every 5 years we get cold feet and we pull out. We don't believe in our own clever. We let people with little people problems tell us who we are. Yeah? So we need to be big people now, whānau, and have generational views. I'm saying this for marama, she couldn't ask you for this, but we are going to make this college happen in this next year and a half, e te iwi, for the next 30 years. Oh, yep. So, again, they got all the clean and tidy on the audit, but you can ask that question and I'll throw it to a friend. But, again, no money has been spent on the college because they've been able to run their program in a fully developed way. We, just before we go to the video, though, we still have key partnerships with Te Wānanga Raukawa, all the Wānangas, Awanuiarangi. In fact, Waikato has one of the biggest cohorts of PhDs coming through Awanuiarangi at the moment. So see yourself in those places, whānau. And here's an example of Nana Dolly doing the research.
Whakatupuranga 2050, Tribal Success. Ki te moe ahau, o ahau anake. Ki te moe a tātou, ka tāia e tātou.
The Mate Hopuhopu project is a collaboration between Kei o Te Waka, the Waikato-Tainui Endowed College, ESR and the University of Auckland. It's a project where we are testing pathogens that come into Aotearoa. It's the first of its kind, and we're hoping that this research will help us to protect New Zealanders in the future from diseases coming into Aotearoa. So wastewater epidemiology is the wastewater that we flush down the toilet, meaning it's the tiko and the mimi, and we test that. We can find out early detection of any pathogens, viruses or bacteria coming into the country.
So I think it's really important that we put our tikanga process around this, because it comes from the people, human beings. It's part of our DNA in there somewhere. And that's important for us to make sure. What are they doing with it? And where is it going? Of course, we went back to our maraes and we talked to our whānaus about what was going on. It helped, like each kaumātua would talk to their marae and their whānau. Kanohi ki te kanohi.
This project is very important because it is the opportunity for Māori to be included in decision making around health. It is an opportunity whereby a Māori community is working with very high level scientists, and we are creating an answer to a problem together. These answers will inform policy going forward, particularly health policy. This is important that we use our tikanga to actually do this research so we can keep the research safe, we can keep the researchers safe, and we can keep Aotearoa safe.
To our border control nannies e te poia marae, tēnā koutou. Yes, so anyway, you can see where the humour went to, or down the toilet, eh? Here, so there we are, whānau, that's the group report, that's the highs and the lows of it. So have we had an easy year? No. And there's more work to do. Okay, we have a very busy end of year. I just want to let you know, in case you start hearing all these things, say, gee, I was at Hopuhopu, nobody said anything. So of course we're coming up to our Queen's Koroneihana. And there's going to be our King's unveiling and our Queen's Koroneihana. Those are going to be beautiful full events. The motu will come with all their expectations of all Matatini's here in 2 years' time. Yeah? And all the councils are going to be asking you as you go home, well, what can we do for Matatini? You tell them, my road needs doing, our marae needs a sign, our toilets need this and that. Why? Because you are a Matatini host. Every one of our marae are. So you make sure your councils do the work. And I'm saying this because all the councils are coming out for your vote right now. So next week the votes close. Are there any nominees, anybody standing in the room? I know there was some whānau here walking around. Auntie Till, e tutu mai auntie. Waikato District Council nominee. I know Maria Huata was on site. She is standing in Hamilton City Council. We have the whanaunga Jamie Tamaki standing in Otorohanga Council. And the whanaunga Sylvia Willison standing in Waitomo. That's it. So you fellas know. So the main thing is that we vote, kia pōti tātou, and, you know, I've done a bit of rangahau whānau, and anybody that needs generation in front of the age, they don't do snail mail. Yeah? Snail mail is strictly a bill in their generation, so they don't interact with this way of voting, this postal voting. So be a nanny and auntie and a koro about it, tell them how to do it. Yeah? As clever as all of this is, there is no digital voting. It's as manual as putting it in the envelope and posting it back. Ko hara watu, I know. but it's very important and we need to be engaged in voting. So we're going to be flooding you with voting also to the end of the year. Before the end of the year, we will be hosting a Mokopuna Ora International Conference about the care and protection of mokopuna. Many of you will need to be at that conference to inform it. We need you there. Before the end of the year, we'll be hosting the National Iwi Māori Chairs. 76 iwi will be here to talk about all of these things that affect us, but more specifically us protecting water, as Tuku has said. Before the end of the year, there will be hui hosted in economic development, and some of you might see yourselves at those hui speaking into them as well. So that's all just in the next 3 months, whānau. Hey, and we're still 2 years out from Matatini, so please stay connected, stay linked in to all of the comms, everything that's going out. There are ways that you and your family can become a part of everything that we're doing. Before I close off and give it back to Tahinga for questions, I would like to call upon the Kahuiariki representative to come and give a few words. Hara mai kei te tungane, Brad. Ki mua i te ara roto iwi, kia ora.
Kei ngaku koroe ke ruruhi tēnā koutou. O tira, kai te iwi e pai nei, tēnā koutou katoa. Nā rā hoki ai, ko au tēnei, Brad Totorewa, o roto mai o Ngāti Naho, mauri a te marae. Ko au te mānga e tō tātou ari ki nui, ko ini ngā waihono i te pō. No mai nā ki rungi tōnā hure o tapu, rire, pai mā rire. People say I'm the new Ngira, but I'm the better looking version. I mean that with respect, Ngira. If I can acknowledge Ngira for his contributions of consequence in his time. Not only caring for our king, but for Te Ariki Nui, ngā waihono i te pō. My message today is short, and just to confirm that our leaders of Waikato have given the presentation to our Queen earlier this week. Irrespective of the results, she did ask a couple of questions. That was around diversification of the portfolios and how that might impact on continued dividends to our marae. Engari, he kuini e aoro nei ki te mana motuhake. And so the question that we need to ask on a marae level is, what does mana motuhake look like for you? What does prosperity look like for you? What does leadership and governance look like for you? And how you determine and shape the future for your babies, our generations. Kei tui te aroaro. If I can leave a short message, is that ka mihi au ki ngā rangatira o tō tātou iwi, e ngana nei ki te whakatutuki i ngā tongikura tukiho. So if I can just take this opportunity to acknowledge all the leaders as they endeavour to manifest the true meaning of some of our proverbial sayings, like the time where after the raupatu tāwhia went to sit here at Puki Yahua, and as he gazed across the land, he uttered these words: e kore tēnei whakaoranga, e huri ki tua o aku mokopuna, ka puta, ka ora. That this way of life will not reach the days of my grandchildren where they shall seek salvation. And despite the results today, it's all the trajectory is going up towards the realisation of that tongi, ka puta, ka ora, shifting from poverty to a state of great health and well-being. So the ways of, the suppression ways are gone. And just support the words of our leaders this afternoon. Whawhai tonu tātou. I might as well finish the line. Aki, aki, aki. As we support those who are putting themselves forward to lead us. But this way of life must not reach the days of my grandchildren where they shall seek salvation. These are the words of our Queen. Te Ariki Nui, Queen i ngā waihono i te pō, rire, rire hau, pai mā rire.
Rāmari e kia tātou, hei whakamutu atu I ngā kupu o te tungi kura Kingi tāwhiao e mea ana. Māku anō e hanga I tōku nei whare ko ngā pau oroto he māhoi he patate, ko te tāhuhu he hino me whakatupu ki te hua o te rengarenga, me whakapakari ki te hua o te kawariki rire haupai marire kia tātou. Me te rere hoki I ngā kupu whakauti ki a koe te pautikanga nau ngā kupu tapu o te ofawha o te pai marire I tuku, kia tuitui I ai tātou, te ao kiko ki te ao wairua no reira tēnei te mihi. Ko tira te mihi, te rere tonu, te tōwai ngā mihi, ki tō tātou ariki nui kuini ngā waihono I te pō ki tōna hure wā tapu pai marire ki ai. Ko tira ki ngā pau o tō tātou tipu, o tō tātou whare e tūake nei ko te whakakitenga o Waikato, ko ngā hiamana, ko ngā tumu whakarai, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou. Ko ai tēnei e tūake nei, he māngai kōrero mō makauru marae, I roto I ngā tau, toru tau ki muri, ko tūau he māngai kōrero mō makauru marae. Engari I tēnei, I te rātu tau, I pōti tēnei whare, kia tūau hei hiamana tuarua, I raro I a tipa. Nō reira, ko Ngāti Tahinga Wilson tōku ingoa, he mihi atu nei ki a tātou. Ko riro tēnei wāhanga ki au, ko te patapātai, me te uia te pātai, me te whakautu. So, yeah, te community ki tēnei wāhanga o tēnei hui. Nā te mea kua hipa ake I te haurua I te paupautanga o te rā. So, ka timata taku wā, nā tēnei te wā mo te pātai. So, mena he pātai tā koutou e pāna ki tēnei pūrongo, ātau.
Kia reo rua e.
Oh, reo rua. Mo taku he. Ngāti Tahinga tōku ingoa. Oh, my name is Ngāti Tahinga. I representative in the House on behalf of Makauru Marae and voted last year, or a year and a half ago, as Deputy Chair in Te Whakakitenga o Waikato. Tēnei wāhanga, this time is for pātai and answers. If you have any pātai in regards to the annual report, this is the time. We got 10 minutes. For this time to ask your questions. If you don't have questions, can you just put your hands up if you don't know your māngai for your marae, I roto I te whakakitenga. Jeff, if you're in here, can you move your car, please?
I can ring him. I'll ring him. He's outside.
Hands up if you don't know your member in the house of your marae. Ka pai, everyone know you don't know? Who's your marae? Ka hotia. I will get that information to you. So if you don't get to ask your question today, in these 10 minutes, we advise you to go to the member of your marae and they'll help you with those answers. Kia ora tātou. Just put your hand up if you have any pātai and we'll bring a mic to you. Poi haken. Time has started.
Thanks, Rich, for the introduction before. My name's Connor. I'm on the audit team for the Tainui audit engagement. All my questions are from the book. No behind-the-scenes questions. Thanks for clarifying for regarding the distribution model. 2.5% of net assets. Is this a sustainable distribution model? It seems quite heavy for Tainui Group Holdings, the asset arm, to grow and sustain this distribution long term. I just want to lead into some other of the distributions on page 80. The kaumātua grants have gone from 5.8 million to 7.8 million, with about 1,400 new number of grants distributed. Our age population for people that can apply for that grants is about 19,000 people. I just see that this is quite a large pool. 7,000 to 19,000, 30-40% of people have applied. If it was 100, can we afford it? What should this distribution look like going forward? Also, what's the kind of oversight that Waikato-Tainui has for, say, annual marae dividends, 4 million this year, 29 million last year? What level of oversight and reporting are you guys getting for what this money has been used for? I guess my worry is this money being used correctly to actually fulfill its purpose? Another question. On page 33, you guys have an outline of the kaimahi for Tainui Group Holdings. Would be really cool if we could see this for Waikato-Tainui as a whole. Also, we have so many investment properties leased out to so many businesses. I'd love to know the kind of jobs that are being created through our investment portfolio and how many are going to our iwi members. I think employment is a big topic of discussion as of late. Do you have any questions? I've got many more, but here's the mic. If anyone has any questions, raise your hand.
Kia ora tātou. I'll just quickly respond to the question regarding the kaumātua grants, and Hinirangi will, I'm sure, respond to the overall distribution. It's very clear within Te Whakakitenga o Waikato, every year the budget is comes to the House for approval, and it's very clear that our members want to continue the support throughout to our kaumātua. They play an integral role in connecting our people back to our mini kaupapa. But you're right, the amount of the population growing means that we do need to manage our spend as best as we can. You'll notice that we've employed a lot more product procurement. So what we're trying to do for our kaumātua is give them a suite of products to choose from rather than a cash distribution. This would mean that we can leverage that spend and create more health and wellbeing products and services for them. We do get around about 7,000 kaumātua apply. We do have around 14,000 that are eligible, but we have a lot of kaumātua that say, I'm kei te paio, I don't require that support. But the products and services are probably one of the key pieces for us. And I suppose the other part also is the social investment piece. The more data we understand about what will support our kaumātua, the social investment fund is we want to leverage and be able to create scale for those opportunities. A lot of things that have been spoken about in the House are things like iwi saver, health insurance, tangihanga insurance, and those are the things that our people are asking us to investigate, so we'll continue to do that. I'll hand over to Hinirangi.
I think we changed the criteria too for kaumātua grants as well during this financial year, on the basis of some of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years. So the distribution of 2.5% is set on the net assets of the group that are eligible for contributing to that distribution, and they're run over a 3-year average, so that smooths out the distribution target as well. I think big picture, what we should be expecting and is in with puna whakatupu tangata, about a 7% return in total out of all of the assets that are earning income. Some of that will be cash and some of that will be growth. So a 2.5% distribution of a 7% earning should be affordable. Our challenge is that we actually have within the settlement the whenua that we got back. A lot of it is low earning, and some of it's non-earning, and some of it has a very high value and is not earning. So that's what the challenge is to getting to the 2.5%. Like I said in my kōrero, in order to achieve the distribution in a sustainable way, then really we should make some hard calls on the parts of the portfolio that are not earning their keep and don't have a long-term strategic purpose. What we've found, though, over the last couple of years, because we brought this to the House, we've said this is what we think we need to do. You know, we'll be able to do several things if we were to realise some assets, and that is pay down debt, which cuts cost. We'll take non-earning assets out of the portfolio, which boosts earnings overall. You know, there's many things that can be done by recycling assets. And then the other thing is, if we were to recycle non-earning assets, then we could actually invest those funds into assets which are earning cash flow and covering the dividend and more. So our long-term target in our new strategy is a 3.5% cash flow target and a 1% growth target. But like I said, we've got to have the support of the people to be able to change the portfolio, which is the big challenge. But 2.5% should be achievable, right? It should be achievable, absolutely. There are some of the other iwi funds distribute more, you know, and once we get to the point where we are comfortably achieving 2.5, then we'd like to shift the goalpost. Yeah, but it's a bit of a journey. Oh, sorry, and you talked about jobs. So a lot of the asset property portfolio tenants we don't have a direct relationship with. They are essentially, we got that whenua back during the settlement with a tenant in place. And they have a long-term lease agreement. So our ability to influence, you know, jobs, those sorts of outcomes is very limited. But where we are making the developments ourselves and where we're creating the partnerships ourselves, then that's where we have an expectation of jobs. Yeah, so that's why some of the team are here today to recruit. Yeah.
Tēnā kōrua mo e rā whakautu. Kia koe te whaia no ko taitanga marae, te matahuru, tāwera.
Tuhana Clark, te wa marahi. Ngā wari nohi o tēnei pātai. Ngari tuatahi ka mihi atau ki ngā kōrero ko pita mai i te rānei. Ana, ko taku pātai, ea te take ka tahi anu ka whiwhi e nei kōrero. Kare anu kia whai wā ki te tiro i ngā kōrero. Koe rā nohi o taku pātai.
Ko ngā pukapukara, I puta ki ngā mema I te tuatai. Ka mutu katoa atu I te tainga mai o ngā mema I nana hinei, ka tiki mai I nana I konei, nā reira ko ngā pukapuka ko tātu I tēnei rā tunu, koira I pēra I tā mai ki a mātou, ka tahi anō, nā. Nei rā te tuku atu kia koutou I tēnei rā, ko te nui ngātou o koutou I whakawhiwhi I tēnei rā. Ko te katoa atu o mātou, whakawhiwhi I nana hinei.
Kia ora mō tō whakautu, engari ngā wā o mua, I whiwhi I moe tēnei hui.
Pai tēnā koro. Koe rā ka whakaohoho nei, e nei o wā mātou kaimahi, kia kaha ki te whakaoti, te tuku kia koutou I mua noatu I tēnei hui. Kia ora rā.
Tēnā koutou. Koe no tautu whaking tēnei no te koraha marae. Tuatai e tika ana kia mihia te tepu. I te kaha o te whakāturanga. Ngā moemoea mō tātou, tō tātou iwi. Ka nui te mihi kia koutou katoa. A big mahi, big vision, and ups and downs, and sitting here listening to the kōrero. I think very inspirational for us as leaders in our own hapu, our own marae. And to come here to see that the struggles are real as well. Want to pay homage and a mihi to that struggle. We do have our peoples in our own spaces still pohara as worse off than ever, feeling the bite. But there's inspiration in there too, to have so many people of our own people, and I'm sure with many other marae around there, have submitted for the first time on the regulatory standards bill, on the treaty principles bill, and the canvassing that we've done in our own little spaces out the coast anyway. So to hear our leadership, our tribal leadership pushing ahead, despite ngā piki me ngā heke, e nui ana te mihi kia koutou. And yes, there's tough times ahead for all of us, but just say that, there are struggles everywhere. So kia kaha, because if you're strong, then that will make sure that we're strong as well. And with regards to the increasing of kaumātua, well, isn't that a good thing? you know, the promotions are reaching all the corners of our hapu, of our iwi. And if it means that there's more pūtea going to our kaumātua, heck yeah, we'll find a way. I'm all for that. I had a kōrero with Rahui the other day, and he said, "Oh, you come to register for your kaumātua grant." I said, "They keep moving the bloody the age group. Every time I get to the point, then I gotta wait another couple of years." But still young buck. So yeah, koera noho tāku. Kia tātou, beautiful morning. Lovely listening to all the kōrero in here. Getting my stamps on my booklet, my passport. Hopefully I can win something. But getting here at 9 o'clock, I think that's a beautiful setup. And then you wrangle us to come in here to listen to the beautiful kōrero. So, mai a mātou o te hauauru, Ngāti Mahuta ki te hauauru, ara ko maketu, ko aruka, ko koraha. Hanui te mihi, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe matua, ai kia koe tāwera.
Ai, tautoko a mia te kia kuzu tahinga a kanui te mihi, kanui te aroa, tautoko ana te kaupapa o te rā, o te tepu. A couple of things, Hinerangi, just from TGH in terms of the debt ratio level that we have with the debt. Are the relativity payments included in that stuff with all that in the current relativity payments and the future ones to 2050? I think we still have that to 2050, the relativity payments from the other settlements. A couple of questions around that. And just in terms of that, also understanding the loss was 40.2 million this year, and understand the challenges and where we are in terms of where we currently are, the total assets, and just understanding that debt to ratio in terms of where we currently are. So just a couple of questions. Kia ora toku.
Yeah, good. I can answer the questions that the first two. First of all, we've got four more payments of relativity. 44. So, yeah. So there's 4 more payments left. We've had 3. 3 payments on average about 110 million. So every 5 years we normally get a check of over 100 million. It is that is the deal. And so when the Tāwara talks to you about relativity, that's the deal that Sir Robert did 30 years ago. So we've got 4 more payments. In excess of $1 million every 5 years, we hustle, we get a check. Big check. That's the first thing. So the amount left from the most recent check, Tāwara, is now part of the Social Investment Fund that Donna talked to you this morning, and the chair of the Distributions Committee, Maxine, is here. She's done a lot of work. Her and her team have done a lot of work around the social investment. So this fund is a bit different in that this is a hand up. So Marae can come to us with a fantastic idea for a loan, LOAN, pay it back. Hey, it's like that Aboriginal fellow that was doing to me on the marae, throw the boomerang, you're going to come back. That's right. So this fund is throw the boomerang and come back. 75 million that's sitting in that pool. A lot of the work has been done by Max. I'm going to ask you to make some very brief comments because I think it's very important, because I know some of you fellas are starting to line up now and I can smell it. Okay? So before you come with your smart idea, I'm just trying to lay the foundation for you. So, hey, there's been a lot of work. This is the first time that we've been in this position. So what we want to do is maximise the opportunity for Marae who have got great ideas. And this is about trying to get return, ongoing return. And it's the same corridor that TGH have been having around diversification. How do you diversify businesses? So,
Ka wai tuku. That's a question I wanted to be answered, but keen to have that conversation. Kia ora.
Max, you want to say just one more thing? Just allow Max just to think.
Tēnā tātou, ai tautoko nai mihi kua mihi at ko Max and Graham, tōku inga koe te manga e Tuheitia marae. Yes, and I also get the privilege of being the distributions chair, so when everyone's coming about the grants, I'm the person that's trying to get our distributions committee to look at, we have 23 grants. So our kaumātua grant is one, but you know, we're responsible for that, and then we've been looking after the beginnings or the origins of the social investment fund. The 3 points that we want to make is recyclable, so as Tuku spoke to, the boomerang, scalable, how do we start to serve in terms of our marae and hapu across, what does it look like to have clusters come together of our marae? And the third thing is measurable. We speak a lot about outputs and outcomes. How do we start to speak to intergenerational impact? Because we all talk about whakapapa decisions, mokopuna decisions, but what does that actually look like for us? The team have done some awesome work, and it's really a coming together of TGH and Waikato-Tainui to develop this framework, and we've got a bit of a rauiri, a funnel to be able to work through. So if you haven't already seen that, your Te Whakakitinga members have been presented that. They have had opportunity to come to a workshop to feed into it, so I really encourage you to go back to them and speak to them, and if not, we're available to start to work towards that. Tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe. Anei, te pātai whakamutunga kōrero rāni? Oh.
Only just to add quickly, what's our debt ratio? 25% of Okay. Oh, so what's it now though? Oh, okay. So just to be clear, the relativity funds that have been received over the last 15 years, must be almost, all sit separate from TGH. They make up the bulk of the Mercer Fund and then the 76 million. So they're all intact, and they're doing two things, and one is earning income and the other actually being set aside for a fund. In terms of the loss in the 40 million, that is non-cash, so it has no impact on our cash flows or our debt or paying grants, right? So, but it's a measure of market value movement. And the debt ratio today is 18%. Yeah, it's like, okay.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko mihi rāwhiti Sarank no Waikato Maniapoto proudly. In actual fact, my pātai was to Hinerangi, and it was quite a personal one because it's around about employment. And I'm just here to put a plug out for a young man who's part of our family, and he runs a business called Rampage Roofing Limited, and he chose to actually go into trade rather than to take up a scholarship with some university in Auckland because he wanted to give back to his solo mother. So his name is Aidan Campbell, and I was just going to come knocking on your door. I suppose the emphasis is that if we have any young people that are within our whānau that are actually in the trades, this is a moment in time to actually sort of think through and say, hey, look, we need to direct them into the projects that become ours as Tainui Waka. So that's what I'm doing. The second point is that AI is a reality. You may criticise our kaumātua for actually picking up the funds. My mother's 94 and I'm 70. But I tell you what, I can talk with my mother about AI and she understands what that means. I want us to actually think about where that places, I want us to think about that. I'm talking about us in terms of tukuranga. It's a reality. Indigenous people need to take control of that. I'm actually all for foreign investment. If the government is failing us, thank you for actually talking about Brookfields. I do not like this man, but he is a resident. I do not like him. He's one of the... you can look it up. His name is Peter Thiel. He got residency under John Key, and I'm just being out front there. Myself personally, I don't like him, but he's a billionaire, and he is into AI, and I'm thinking, Hinawai looks fantastic for an AI super sub centre, and this is really big mahi, people, but we need to develop it here in Aotearoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou wā ko tangi te pere. Thank you. Just before I hand it to Matua Tuku and Matua Brad, we got a few pānui to give. But just before we do that, just like to thank everyone on behalf of Te Whakakitenga o Waikato for taking the time out to come out in this cold morning and this cold day to embrace all the kōrero that we've given today. So mihi ana ki te tepu ki ngā hea mana, tēnei te tuku, te kia Matua Tuku.
Before Brad talks to you about what's happening at Koroneihana, the biggest show on earth is Matatini. It's coming. 2027. So we're going to get ready. And every marae should get ready. So we will deploy our teams to make sure that we're all ready. Kia ora rā, tātou.
Well, that's the second biggest kaupapa. I want to take this very rare opportunity to correct tuku. Ko te koro nei ana kei te tū mai. On the 30th of August is the rā wairua, is the prayer breakfast for the king, and that'll be held at Wāhi Pā. And predominantly it's focused on Waikato. And so I understand that it'll start around 9 o'clock, but please watch social media. If you're on there for the next coming weeks, you'll see Whatu Moana put the program out. So it's on the 30th, okay? Wāhi Pā. The Koroneihana commences the Kawemate for Tainui on the 2nd of September, which is a Tuesday. And the pōwhiri is at 9 o'clock, okay? Organise ourselves out on that day, but just be ready. Haria mai o kuta mate. That's the 2nd. On the 3rd, which is the Wednesday, is the Kawemate for the motu. Usually we'll have Taranaki, we'll have Rātana have their own pōwhiri, 6 o'clock in the morning. All the entire motu are coming together for the one pōwhiri. And that's on Wednesday, okay, the same time. Tā pai? On the Thursday is the pōwhiri for ngā ariki o te moana nui a kiwa. It involves the King of Tonga, Kaumatinui of Rarotonga, the ariki of Tahiti, head of state for Samoa. And they'll be bringing on the Gara Maude, which is the kauai tohora that was gifted to the Queen at Whakatū. Okay, so that's the Thursday. And then Friday is the Rā Koroneihana, and at the conclusion of that day there will be a concert to be held at Patterson Park. That'll start at 3 o'clock. That's when the designated time to receive the Māori, the second largest kaupapa of Matatini. That'll kick off the concert. It'll go to 8 o'clock at night, and then it'll commence again the Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, and Koroneihana will conclude 1 o'clock on Saturday the 6th of September. Nō reira koena ngā kōrero mo te Koroneihana. Nō reira kua riro māku tēnei wāhanga i whakakapi. E te iwi e mihi ana kia koutou i tēnei rā. Tātou e pai nei ki roto i te whakakitenga o Waikato. Tukia te arangi ki runga horohia ngā tikanga o te paki o Matariki, ki runga i te ariki nui, koini ngā wai hono i te pō, ka pai. Tukia te arangi ki runga horohia ngā tikanga o te paki o hewa, ki runga ki ngā tātou iwi e pai nei, ka pai. Tukia te arangi ki runga, whakaorangi a te iwi, rire hau, pai maari.
Whiua ki te motu. Te ake rautangi o Hikairo Kāwhia went to Australia in search of whānau. In a conversation with another, he returned with the idea of creating one leader for Māoridom. He shared his thoughts to Ngāti Hikairo Kaumātua, who strongly recommended that the suggestion be taken to its paramount chief, Pōtatau Te Wherewhero. The ariki, upon hearing the kōrero, he directed that the idea be put to the motu. Few atu ki te motu. Many warrior leaders, stately men like Hopuhopu of the North, Pirikāwau of Ātiawa Taranaki, Kāmihana Te Rauparaha of Ngāti Toa, had considered themselves ideal for the role. Martine Te Whiwhi o Raukawa decided he would champion the role of driver behind a kaupapa of seeking the ideal candidate to become king. He reached out to Whanganui, to Te Arawa, Ngāti Parau, Kahungunu, to Wharetoa, Ngāti Toa Rangatira, and even Waikato, of all whom declined the offer. Iwiko Te Heuheu III had already approached Waikato, Kaumātu, to suggest that Pōtatau Te Wherewhero consider the position. A criteria was established to eliminate chaos and disorder. However, all probable candidates effectively chose not to consider the position. In 1856, a hui was held at Pukawa on the western lake shore of Taupo. It was there that the preference of an individual being Pōtatau be supported. 1,800 chiefs attended the hui, which they formed a binding agreement that Pōtatau Te Wherewhero of Waikato was to be chosen as king. It was at this hui that Pōtatau Te Wherewhero's region was described by Iwiko Te Heuheu Tūkino III as Waikato Taniwharau he piko he taniwha. The statement was followed up with the hinana ki uta, hinana ki tai. Tirohia te wāhi noho ai ngā taniwha, tirohia te wāhi noho ai ngā rangatira. Ka ki ai te kōrero, ko Pōtatau Te Wherewhero te tangata, ko taupiri te maunga, ko Waikato te awa, Waikato taniwharau, Waikato horopaunamu, he piko he taniwha. A nei whiua ki te motu.
No Thank you.